Welcome to Tuesday, the 21st day of February, 2023. Your Day Weather Podcast brought to you by Cowboy State Daily and WYDOT. Well, changes are on the way. There's really no significant departure in the weather charts this morning that would indicate things are going to change. So what's been advertised looks to be on the way. We're still going to have high winds today along I-80 and I-25. Snow showers are going to be breaking out in the high country again, especially across Montana and northern Wyoming and the western mountains of Wyoming into Idaho and northern Utah later in the day into the southern mountains of Wyoming and northern Colorado. Then the Arctic air really gets a push, and we'll show you that here in a minute. During the course of the day today, the Arctic air fills up into Montana and into far northern Wyoming. Then the front will move rather rapidly as we get to late afternoon and evening and overnight across Wyoming, then into Colorado by Wednesday morning, all across the Dakotas, all across Nebraska. The Arctic air will overspread the region, and it's a pretty intense Arctic plunge. The overrunning of the moist, mild Pacific air over the Arctic air will spread snow into those states, and I want to show you what's going to happen in the upper Midwest, because places like Minneapolis are going to get hammered as this overrunning snow is going to extend further east. We're also going to see significant snow, especially in the mountains of Colorado and Utah. A large part of western and central and northern Nebraska near the South Dakota border is into this as well. As we mentioned yesterday, along and south of I-70, those areas are still going to be very cold, but will miss the heavy snow. Bitter cold temperatures early will persist, especially from late tonight through early Friday. Now, we do expect over the weekend the Arctic air to retreat, but there's going to be a period of time tonight through early Friday where bitter cold temperatures and bitter cold wind chills, dangerous livestock conditions, and travel is going to just be a real big problem. And we're still concerned late Friday into the weekend of pockets of blowing snow as the Arctic air does retreat. Satellite image this morning showing the clouds forming along ahead of the Arctic boundary that is up here. And you can see, it's hard to see, but there's a little swirl of clouds. This is the upper level low right here heading south. And these clouds that are forming over the water indicating very cold air going over those waters just off the coast of British Columbia, feeding the development of a trough of low pressure in the Great Basin as it dives south into the region. And there you can see it right there. So the stage is set. The big ridge in the eastern Pacific, the big ridge in the Atlantic, a classic setup to spill Arctic air into the western United States. By 11 a.m. tomorrow, we see the low sliding into northwest of Salt Lake, and by then, the Arctic air is well entrenched, and by 11 a.m. tomorrow, the Arctic air boundary is going to be down into here. So that mild, moist air coming off the Pacific goes right over and on top. And as we showed you yesterday with an animated image, you can see the progression of the Arctic air here over the next 3 days, making its way south into Montana during the day, then overnight, really beginning to push its way south into the region, and then really deepening and reaching its peak of the cold by sunrise Thursday. And you can see a lot of sub-zero temperatures in the teens and the 20s below zero. This is going to equate to temperature readings with the wind chill values that are going to be in excess of 30 degrees below zero. And for those of you watching this, if you look in the upper right-hand corner here of the chart, now these times are in Zulu time, which means you take 7 hours away from current mountain time to get to the daylight hours that you're used to. So you can see that progression of the Arctic air kind of oozing its way south and progressing its way east. And then these are the temperature anomalies by Thursday morning. Anywhere you see the purple, the temperature deviation from average is 30 to 50 degrees or more. Then you can look and see the contrast. Weather is contrast. Look how warm it is in the southeastern United States. There's going to be 80-degree temperatures down here. There's going to be temperatures 20 to 25 degrees below zero here. So you're talking about a contrast over a 100 degrees Fahrenheit between regions as the system plows its way south into the region. And this is the progression of the snow. Looks just almost identical to what we saw yesterday. So you can see that there's definitely a lot of consistency, and there really is really good agreement between the modeling. And you can see there is a cutoff of the overrunning, where the snowfall is much lighter once you get into northeastern Colorado and south of that I-70 corridor there. You can also see the snow really deep into the mountains of the Intermountain West. A lot of very common accumulations of 1, 2, 3 feet or more. You can see there's a snowfall forecast in the Wasatch here of 4 feet of snow. We'll see if that transpires. Very heavy snow in the southwest mountains of Colorado as well. Then if you were to take a look at the winds as this Arctic air comes in, this is for 11 a.m. tomorrow, but this is really going to happen around sunrise tomorrow and into the early parts of Wednesday. As the Arctic air pushes in, as we just showed you, we were concerned about this yesterday, and we're very concerned about this as we get into the overnight hours tonight late and into the morning hours of Wednesday. Arctic air is going to shoot the gap between South Pass and the higher terrain in central Wyoming into Sweetwater, Carbon counties. As you get into Fremont County, Natrona County here, this area right here is going to coincide with significant snow. So this is where you're going to get a blizzard situation evolving along the Interstate 80 corridor. There's just going to be a lot of blowing snow. And you take these wind gusts with Arctic temperatures, and you can imagine how cold the wind chill values will be. But you see the widespread blue? Now, these are not excessive winds, but these are 20, 30 mile per hour wind gusts that will cause a lot of blowing snow and some extremely cold wind chill values as it goes on through. But this area in particular, in terms of travel weather conditions, is going to be very, very difficult, if not impossible. Also wanted to show you the upper Midwest. Look at these snowfall amounts in excess of 2 feet. A lot of foot and a half snowfall totals across Minnesota, Wisconsin, into central and northern areas of Michigan. And this is actually going to go all the way up into New England as well. The 10-day precipitation forecast for the West kind of looks like some of the maps we've had earlier in the winter. Look at all the orange and red into California, into the Pacific Northwest. So there's going to be another cycle here where California gets significant rain and significant snows. Great news for water conditions in the situation there. This is going to be boosting the snowpack over the next 7 to 10 days across the entire West. And look at the snowfall. If you were to go further west into California, into the Great Basin, look at the snow in Nevada. Look at that. And look at this, the snow conditions. We're talking over the next 10 days, 4, 6, 7 feet of snow in the Sierra Nevada. And as we mentioned earlier in the week, snow along the coastal mountains of California are going to be occurring over the next week or so with this change in the weather. We do have something that's a little depressing to show you. We got the new European model that goes out to 45 days. And what I'm showing you is the temperature forecast and anomaly over the next month. So this is for the next 30 days. So you can see how cold the Western United States overall is going to be over the next month. This doesn't mean there won't be little thaws. There will be. There are opportunities for some warmer days. But this persistent stormy pattern is likely going to continue for another 4 weeks at least. And this is going to lead to quite a cold weather pattern for the Western United States. And this is really quite remarkable to see it forecasted this cold. So we'll see what transpires, but this signal continues to show up in our long-range modeling. And then if you were to take a look at the precipitation anomaly for the West, see all that green? Now, some of that green is what's going to be happening here shortly. But the tendency is going to be, for the next 4 weeks, more storms coming through the Western United States. So the one we're going to be dealing with here over the next few days, it's not a one-off. There will be more following it in the weeks ahead. And there you can see what the snowfall over the next 30 days looks like across the nation. That is something you would see in January, especially if this ends up coming to transition, if this comes to fruition right here. This is a very wintry weather pattern for the month of March across the lower 48. Have yourself a good Tuesday. We'll talk to you tomorrow.